Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Estonia and we're going to get started on reviewing the beers that I brought back with me from my recent trip over there. Of course, as I told you in the channel message, I was over there for my friend Einar and his lovely wife Larissa's wedding. I had a great time there. Brought back a hell of a lot of different Estonian beers to review for you, so you're going to see these over the next couple of weeks and months. And yeah, a big shout out to my friend Siim as well, who took me down to Võru and to Tartu and things like that, and let me stay with him in Tallinn as well. Actually, I had a really good time with Siim, and I do hope that we can get Siim to the sort of Copenhagen, South Sweden area at some point soon. So massive shout out to all three of these guys in this video. For this review though, we are going to introduce another brewery that I've never tried anything from before, and I'm very curious to see how this one turns out because I've heard good things about these guys. So for this review then, we are going to go to the southeast of Estonia, about halfway between Tartu and Võru, and we're having a taste of my first beer from Käbliku Pruulikoda. So this one is the Tuulispask, which comes in at 8.4% ABV, and this one is an Imperial or double IPA, whatever you want to call it. So very curious to see how this beer turns out. As I said, this is the very first beer that I'm trying from these guys. I never even tried one of their beers when I was over in Estonia, and it's one of two from this brewery that I was able to bring back with me. The other one is an Imperial Stout, and of course you will see that reviewed a little bit later. We just need to do the IPAs when they are fresh, of course. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. You know, Estonia has a great craft beer scene these days, and it's definitely cool to be able to introduce some of these other breweries to you here on the channel as well. So I hope you guys enjoy the mini-series, I hope you enjoy this review, and I do hope that I can review a few more beers from Käbliku over the next little while. I will definitely be back in Estonia fairly soon because I really enjoyed being back there, of course. So yeah, let's see how we go with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I will do in the future from Käbliku Pruulikoda. Very first time I'm tasting one of their beers, as I mentioned, but definitely not the last time. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Estonian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's going to be added to fairly regularly over the next few months. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Käbliku Pruulikoda then, on to my brewery notes. So as I was mentioning earlier, Käbliku Pruulikoda are from the southeastern part of Estonia. These guys are based in the Käbliku tourist farm complex, which is in Põlvamaa county, or Põlvamaa I guess you could say in Estonian, which is in the Kepli forest in the southeastern part of Estonia, kind of about halfway between Tartu, which is to the north, and then Võru, which is kind of to the south. Tartu, of course, is the historic university city of Estonia, of course. That's the oldest university in the country, and a very nice little place as well, I have to say. But the company itself was founded back in 2015 by Janar Karakash, Marko Muruma and Erik Absalon. So by trade, Janar is a forest manager, while Marko is a builder, and then Erik worked with geographical information systems. So apparently Erik experimented with home brewing in university, having bought a small brewing set from the Gambrinus beer store. I'm not sure if that was where I actually bought this beer, the Gambrinus beer store in Tartu. They do have a second store, of course, in Pärnu as well, but that's somewhere that I really recommend that you visit. Very nice place. The guy who owns that apparently is a professor at Tartu University and a kind of political guru almost as well, but a very nice guy actually. But after brewing alone for a while, Erik discovered that some colleagues in his company that he worked for after graduating, Marko and Janar, were also doing some home brewing. So they put their money together and they invested in a 50-litre Braumeister kit, and they continued their experiments together before founding the company officially in 2015. After a while they found their premises, and then they moved in They bought all their tanks, all their equipment and things like that, and by 2017 they were producing around 40,000 litres of beer per year. And over the last few years they've continued to expand their fermentation capacity. Their beers are going down to Latvia and Lithuania, from what I understand now as well. As I said, this brewery can be found on a kind of tourist farm, if you like. So there they've got accommodation, fishing, swimming, camping facilities, saunas, you know, seminar rooms, party rooms and things like that. From what N. Parel at Puila was telling me, you know, the guys who own this are basically big bearded forest dudes actually, so hopefully we can get them on the channel on one of my next trips to Estonia, and we can do an interview, a Meet the Brewery interview with these guys. That would be awesome to do actually. But yeah, this brewery is pretty much just in the kind of middle of the forest, if you like. Estonia, very, very forested country. If any of you have been to Finland, it's actually very, very similar in terms of its kind of climate and things like that. A lot of lakes, a lot of forests and stuff like that, but lovely people, and definitely a place that I would recommend that you can go. There's some lovely craft beer there as well actually. But as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced just under 50 different kinds of beer, and depending on where you go in Estonia, in Voru they actually had a number of their beers in the supermarket. There was a craft pils there actually. I can't remember if it was the Pilsner Urquell, as they're calling it, or Pilsner Urquell, I think they call their Pilsner beer. They had one of those and I really wanted to get one of those, but unfortunately I didn't have space or weight in my case to get that one back with me as well. But yeah, it was definitely cool to be able to get this one for you. And like I said, this is one of two beers that I bought back from Käbliku. There was this one, which I believe I either bought this in Gambrinus or I bought it in Kot or Ubayahumal. I bought it in one of those three shops when I was over in Estonia actually. But you can get these beers fairly easily in any good beer shop in the country actually. But yeah, like I say, as of August 2020, 50 different beers, which is a fairly good rate of return. About one new beer a month, if you like, over the 5 years that these guys have been in existence. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Käbliku Pruulikoda for the moment. Hopefully, as I say, we can go there and actually have a look at the brewery on one of my next trips to Estonia. I do want to go back to Tartu. I love going there. And of course these guys aren't too far away from that, so that's definitely something we can look into doing. And to do a Meet the Brewery interview with these guys would also be very cool. But yeah, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to learn more about them, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and have a look at this beer then. So Tuulispask, this translates into English as like whirlwind or windbreak apparently, according to Google, but going by the artwork on this one, I'm going to go with it being whirlwind or tornado almost. But yeah, you can see this little birdie guy down here. This is the kind of symbol almost, the kind of mascot if you like, of Käbliku Pruulikoda. And as I said to you, this one is an Imperial IPA, coming in at 8.4% ABV, and it tells you on the side here that this one is 93 IBUs, so I'm guessing just from that this one will be more of a West Coast type IPA. But there you can see it's got the Estonian craft beer symbol on it there, Eesti Käsitööölut, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But yeah, really nicely presented this one. I do like the artwork, and these guys, as I say, you can get their beers fairly easily across Estonia these days. But 8.4%, this one will be a bit of a monster, I think. This must be my first West Coast double IPA in quite a wee while, come to think of it. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us, and always cool to review some different Estonian things for you too. So yeah, I think that's about 2/3 of the can in the glass, which will do for the moment, and then we'll have a look at the beer itself. So yeah, this one actually comes across as pretty hazy. It doesn't, does it say on the can? It's got a little bit of a blurb here as well. It says, on a nice hot summer day when fields of barley were golden, came out of nowhere a whirlwind that picked up the barley and neighbour Matty's hop plants. It blew the hall to the yard of Käbliku Brewery, where the local brewers gathered it all, stuck it into a pot and brewed a fresh double IPA. But yeah, produced by Käbliku Pruulikoda Oy in Põlvamaa Esti in the Kanepi Vald, basically the Kanepi forest. It's kind of interesting that when you listen to Estonian, it's got a little bit of Finnish to it, there's a few Swedish things in there, and there's a bit of German to it as well. Vald, of course, is quite similar to German. It's a very interesting language, but it's one of the Finno-Ugric languages, so it's got stupidly crazy grammar, if you like. The grammar is very, very difficult to learn. Hungarian, for some reason, is related to Finnish and Estonian as well. But yeah, this one, it doesn't say that it's got oats and wheat in it, but it does look a little bit more kind of hazy actually, which is interesting. But yeah, as you can see, this beer has poured a lovely, it's quite a rich ambery colour, this one, I would say, rather than anything else. But yeah, when this beer poured, you could see it had about a half finger of a frothy, kind of creamy coloured head. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but that's faded away just to be a very, very kind of thin, foamy layer. If I put my fingers behind the glass, this beer, of course, is pretty, does have a good degree of haze to it, but it's nowhere near as kind of gloopy and soupy, if you like, as the New England IPAs would be. But yeah, it looks like a pretty damn nice beer, I have to say. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma with this one and just and see how we get on. I'm really curious about this, but nothing overly surprising about this beer when you consider what style it is. Let's take a look at that aroma then. Oh yeah, this is West Coast, 100% West Coast. So straight away with this one, you get a good bit of brown sugar coming out of this. You've got a bit of a kind of brown bready base there. It's got a lovely kind of, yeah, there's a bit of white bread in there, there's a bit of brown bread, you've got some nice kind of sweet caramel. It's a little bit toasty in fairness as well, but the caramelly notes out of this beer come across as a little bit boozy. There's a bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing with this one. And you know, you've got a few of these other kind of notes too. There's maybe one or two little woody kind of undertones to it as well, which is interesting. But 100% West Coast double IPA, this one, no doubt in my mind about that. As soon as you smell that, West Coast all the way. It's really nice. It's actually quite nostalgic, this one. I wonder if this was one of the first beers that they did, maybe back in like 2017 or something like that, before the whole haze craze hit Estonia. Trying to even remember now, I think it was maybe 2018 or so, although I suppose 2016 I think in Sweden was when we started getting the New Englands, but this is a properly old school West Coast IPA. There's something most definitely old school about this beer, and I'm getting quite excited, I have to say. But yeah, malt base on this one, a little bit of white bread, a little bit of brown bread, some sweet caramel in there, quite boozy in that sense as well. You've got a little bit of a kind of biscuity, McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing for me. There's one or two little woody undertones to the beer, and it's really nice how that all just kind of just fits together actually. The aroma coming out of the malty side of this is definitely a wee nostalgic hint for me. So yeah, I like how this one goes together. So on the hoppy side of things, you've got a good balance of things in here. I think this is quite an old school hop mix that's in here. So there's a wee touch of earthiness coming out of it. That could be the signal for mosaic or something, because this beer, it does have a good bit of an orangey character as well. That could be Amarillo, because it does have a little bit of that slightly kind of stronger, more oily orange to it. Amarillo's a bit more oily, whereas mosaic is a little bit brighter, but then mosaic gives you the earthiness, Amarillo doesn't. So there's either mosaic or Amarillo in this one. There is a good orangey presence to this beer. But yeah, I think there's probably a bit of Simcoe, and I've got a feeling this might be a kind of classic Citra Simcoe mosaic or Citra Simcoe Amarillo beer, to be honest with you. Properly old school, this one, which I like. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, there's a wee touch of earthiness to it. There's a good little bit of floral aromaticity. It comes across as having a little bit of a slightly spicy note to it, to be honest, but it does smoothen out the more that you smell it. There's a lovely bit of grassiness to the beer as well, which I think is very nice. So yeah, the fruitiness out of this though, it's got a big oily fruity character. As I said, it's oranges, big juicy oranges that jump out of this one straight away at me. I'm pretty sure that there's either Citra and or Simcoe in this one, because it's got a wee bit of that kind of passion fruity note to it. It's got a little bit of mango, You know, it's got these kind of typical things to it, but I really find this one to be quite caramelly and quite orangey. And if you've watched the channel before, you will know that I love IPAs that really lean towards that more kind of caramelly, orangey side of things. So in terms of aroma, this one is ticking a lot of boxes for me. I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything else coming out of the aroma there. There's maybe a wee bit of a kind of stronger lemon limey quality, so that could be maybe a bit of Centennial or a bit of Equinaut. I don't think Equinaut, I think it's more likely to be Centennial, which is more lemony, of course. But yeah, I think this is probably a 3 or 4 hopped beer, this one. Interestingly, I was trying to wonder, you know, it says 93 IBUs, maybe they've used a bit of Columbus in this as the bittering hop to get that level out of it, but it doesn't smell overly spicy, which is kind of what you would normally expect if there's a bit of Columbus in here. In some ways, the more and more that I smell of this beer, it does start to become a little bit more New Englandy in its aroma, but you know, the fruits start to kind of juicing up a little bit and things. So yeah, the aroma of this one is really nice, but when you first smell it, the sweet caramelly, the brown sugary elements are most definitely West Coast, and it's got a lovely big oily fruity character to it as well. It doesn't smell overly bitter. It doesn't, you know, if I was smelling this and I was asked to guess the IBUs, I wouldn't think 93, I would probably think it was about 50 or something like that. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this one is the Tuulispask Whirlwind, or Tornado maybe, I don't know the exact translation from Estonian, but the Whirlwind Imperial IPA, double IPA, coming in at 8.4% from Käbliku Pruulikoda in Põlvamaa, just between Tartu and Võru in the southeast of Estonia. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, Skål, Terviseks. Ooh, that's pretty nice. Just getting this in good condition as well, actually. Yeah, it's a properly old school West Coaster, that. So it's just interesting that the appearance is a little bit more kind of hazy and things. But yeah, this beer is pretty damn solid, I have to say. It's just kind of, I think, on the edge of it's definitely just kind of on the edge of its kind of peak, if you like. It's just getting towards the end of when it's in good condition to drink. But yeah, this is pretty damn solid, I have to say. I don't know if they have a tap room actually at the brewery, but it would be interesting to try this one kind of straight out of the keg or whatever. That would be an interesting thing. But yeah, this is pretty damn solid, I have to say. It's quite an old school beer. I mean, if you go back to 2015, 2016, if this was released around then, which I think it might have been, people probably would have been like, damn, this is good. Whereas up to us now, this is more of a kind of old school beer, and there's nothing wrong with that. I really like this one. This is a very, very well done Imperial Double West Coast IPA. So yeah, it's definitely one that I'm going to sit and sip on over the next little while. Let's get the rest of it into the glass, and yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this then for you. So straight away with this beer, you get a nice kind of, I'm getting more of the spiciness out of this. I'm pretty sure, going by the flavours, there's Columbus in this. It's interesting that didn't come out so much in the aroma. Maybe when it was very, very fresh, you would have got that. But yeah, let's focus on the malty side of this beer then. So straight away across the middle of your palate, you get that lovely kind of white bready quality there. It does get a little bit more kind of grainy and brown bready the further you go into the aftertaste with it. You can feel that lovely kind of smooth bready quality just blanketing the middle of your palate, like I say. If you go towards the back third of your palate, it does kind of thicken up a little bit. It does feel a little bit more kind of doughy and almost very slightly yeasty in a certain way. But yeah, if you move towards the middle third of your palate, you get that kind of bread crusty note. There's a bit of graininess in there, and you really have that coming out of this one, which is very, very nice. In the centre of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of sweet, oily caramel to the beer, and as you move further out from that, it's a little bit more kind of biscuity and like McVitie's digestive, like in a lot of ways. So yeah, I like how it goes together in that sense. It's very kind of straight up actually. It's one of the more kind of bready leaning West Coast IPAs that I've had. Some of them can be very oily, and caramelly leaning, whereas this one I think has a good kind of bready base to it. And quite often with the European brewed West Coast IPAs, you'll quite often find that, and I think a lot of that is because of a lot of the breweries use German malt and things, and German malt and Czech malt, of course, I think is kind of inherently bready in a lot of its characteristics. So yeah, I think it's fair to say, in a way, that this beer, it actually reminds me of a couple of the German brewed West Coast IPAs that I've had in recent times. It has a little bit of that kind of German breadiness in the backbone, but I like that. I do enjoy those types of beers. But yeah, like I say, very centre of your palate, you've got a nice bit of that very sweet, kind of boozy caramel actually. There is a good bit of booziness to this beer in fairness, and as you move further out from the centre of your palate, the caramel just sort of sweetens up a little bit, then it gets more grainy and biscuity towards the edge of the palate. If you move towards the front of that middle third of your tongue, there's definitely a wee touch of a kind of woody undertone to the beer, but yeah, the further you go into the aftertaste with this one, it gets a little touch more kind of grainy and things actually, which is interesting. So yeah, the malt base that you get in this beer, it's really pretty nice actually. It's very solid and almost a bit German-like. But yeah, let's focus on the hoppy side of things then. So back corners of the palate, there's definitely a bit of earthiness to this beer. As you move further forward along the sides of the palate, the earthiness does push forward a little bit, but then as you reach the front corners of the palate, you start to get that big floral aromatic kind of spice out of this beer. Really would not be surprised if there's a bit of Columbus in here, because of that spiciness that's coming out of this one. I don't know about Chinook, because you know a lot of breweries like to use Columbus and Chinook. I'm very certain, nearly certain, that Columbus has been used in this one, but I'm not sure about Chinook. Let's have a wee look at that. Yeah, really couldn't tell you on the on that side of things, but I'm pretty sure there is a bit of Columbus in this one as the bittering hop. But yeah, as you go round the front curve of the palate, it's definitely a little bit lighter and more kind of grassy. Then on that front third of the tongue, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters push their way out of the beer. And yeah, the smooth kind of big breadiness that this beer has is, you can feel between that kind of middle third of your tongue and the front third of your tongue, there's a wee border region there where the beer is just a little touch kind of doughy and bready, but that's quite nice. If you go towards the back of the fruity side of things, there's maybe a little bit of a darker tropical note to the beer. Yeah, there's maybe a little bit of a darker kind of slightly grapefruity type note out of this one, but in fairness it does strike me as being more of a kind of passion fruity note. Really wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of Citra in this one. There is a wee bit. I don't think there's Chinook in this one. I really don't. I don't think it's got a little bit of a kind of resinous quality the further you go into the aftertaste. I'm starting to doubt myself now on that statement with the Chinook. But yeah, there's a wee bit, the further you go into the aftertaste, you can feel that at the back of that fruity part of the palate you start to get a bit of a darker, more kind of pungent, tropically citrus note out of the beer. But yeah, as you move further forward on the fruitiness, the fruity side of it, it does start to change a little bit. So yeah, there is a wee bit of a kind of passion fruity note to the beer. I do wonder if this could just be Simcoe and Amarillo. I'm really not sure about Citra with this one, and I will say this is not at its peak freshness, definitely not. It's at the kind of edge of when you could consider it being in good when you can consider it being in good condition, I think. But yeah, I'm not sure. Did I buy this? And I think yeah, this one's kind of on the edge, and I think I bought this later in my trip actually, and maybe I did buy this at the supermarket. I actually can't remember, but yeah, this one, this kind of highlights the example for me, is when you bring beers back from another country, this is why you drink the IPAs first, because it's still in good condition, but it's getting towards the edge of it now. But yeah, you do get a stronger kind of grapefruity, passion fruity note out of this one. As you move further forward, that kind of lingers there. There's maybe a wee touch of mango or something, but not a lot. But then as you reach the very kind of front half of that front third of your tongue, the front half of the fruity side of the beer, that's when it starts to get really kind of oily and orangey for me. So I really wouldn't be surprised if it's Amarillo that's in this. Mosaic is the other option, of course. Some of the earthiness that the beer has might signify Mosaic, but I'm not sure. 2015, 2016, 2017, that's definitely in the time zone when Mosaic would have been coming out, but probably Amarillo would be a bit more prominent back then too. But yeah, this beer has definitely got a big oily orangey component to it on that front part of your tongue there. As you go further into the aftertaste, there's maybe a wee touch of a more kind of citrusy, zesty note develops on the very front edge of the tongue. Maybe a little bit of a lemony character, but I don't think there's a bit of Centennial in this one. I think this is probably, I'm pretty certain there's Columbus in this one. There could be a bit of Chinook in this. I've got a feeling that Simcoe is probably involved. It's got a bit of a stronger kind of passion fruity note to it, but at the same time Citra is a possibility because of that darker grapefruit it has. So either Simcoe or Citra in this one, and I think either, I've got a feeling I'm more tempted to say Amarillo than I am Mosaic, to be honest with you, because of the big oily orangey characters. But yeah, I think the hop bill is something along those lines. I always like playing guess the hops with these beers, but yeah, this is quite an old school West Coast IPA, quite orangey leaning for me, quite nice and big and floral and spicy, and a nice bit of a bready kind of almost caramelly note coming out of it too. But yeah, thumbs up to Käbliku Pruulikoda for this one. I think they've pulled off really solid beer this. So if you want something a little bit more old school, then this is one. The Tuulispask is one that you definitely want to check out actually. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, yeah, this is kind of top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth. It's a very oily beer, this one. There is a degree of smoothness to it though because of the malt base, but yeah, quite an oily double IPA. In terms of hoppy bitterness, it says on the side here it's 93. I probably, if I was tasting it, I probably would have guessed, yeah, 80. I don't know if I kind of struggle to recognise if something's above 80, to be honest with you. It's one of the limitations of my palate. But yeah, I probably would have guessed about 80 with this one if I'd done it blind. But yeah, nice kind of smooth malt base to it with the breadiness, good little bit of a kind of brown sugary boozy sweetness. The brown sugars cover the booziness quite well, and you've got a lovely oily fruity character to this beer as well. So yeah, big thumbs up to Käbliku Pruulikoda for me with this one. Solid beer, very old school. You know, this is a sort of 2015-ish West Coast double IPA for me, which is a really nice change of pace from all the kind of New England stuff that I've been drinking recently. So yeah, have a little look at this one if you do get the chance. This beer is fairly easy to find in Estonia, in any of the good beer shops. You know, Gambrinus, Uba Sip, I think, will also have this. Coat in Tallinn. You know, you'll be able to find this quite easily, and I think that, as I say, they are exporting now to Latvia and Lithuania, so definitely worth checking out. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this review. This has been really nice to introduce Käbliku Pruulikoda to you, another Estonian brewery who I hadn't heard of before I went to Estonia this time. Great brewing scene over there. There's about 50 breweries there, and I hope you guys have enjoyed another Estonian craft beer review. Many more to come, and you will see me review their Imperial Stout at some point fairly soon. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Käbliku Pruulikoda. We will return to these guys fairly soon, and beyond that I hope I can do more reviews from them as well. This one was the Tuulispask Whirlwind, as it would translate into English, an Imperial IPA, 8.4% ABV, more of a West Coast double rather than anything else. But yeah, really nice beer, this one, and I'm glad that I was able to review this for you here on the channel. So yeah, many more Estonian reviews to come. This one is just kind of kicking off the mini-series, if you like. Slanja, Skål, Terviseks, massive shout out to Sim, and congratulations once again to Einar and Larissa on their marriage. Cheers.